So you want to be a landlord. If you want to be a landlord, chances are you've seen an ad online, or maybe you've just searched for something around property and you started getting these ads telling you how easy it is to get up and running, and the fact that you can build generational wealth and be a millionaire in no time flat. Chances are that person is trying to sell you a course. Being a landlord is not easy. And with the new changes in legislation, you need to consider if this is for you. I'm going to do a quick video where I talk through some of the key changes that you can decide if being a landlord is something that will be profitable to you and benefit your family. My name is Anthony Lindsay, and as I always say, do not get your financial, legal, or medical advice from some guy on TikTok or social media. I make these videos that I can talk you through topics, give you information that you can go and speak to a professional. These videos are not designed to replace speaking to someone that's going to understand your needs, someone that understands what your family's goals are, and someone that is qualified, honest, and will do everything within the law. And remember, when we're talking about mortgages, your property could be repossessed if you don't keep up the repayments on your mortgage. So let's get started. So you want to be a landlord. Remember, it's not easy. You need a plan and you need a team. Have you thought about the renters' rights bill? So there's a new bill that's going through Parliament that is designed to give renters more rights. And, a lot of renters are in situations where they feel like they're stuck renting, or they're in accommodations that aren't suitable. The myth or the idea of slumlords, I don't think that that's the thing anymore. I find that most landlords that I know, and I know a lot of landlords, they want to do the best for their tenants. So this law is there to protect the renters and also to just bring along more things that are going to make renters feel like they have options. So let's just look at some of the changes and how this could impact you if you're thinking about being a landlord. So the Renters' Right Bill, it abolishes Section 21, so no fault evictions and fixed term tenancies. All assured short hold tenancies will become periodic, so that's month by month. So the landlord must rely only on a defined legal grounds under Section 8 to regain possession. So if you are someone that's renting, this is great. This gives you more rights to be able to stay in your property, and you won't have a landlord that's just kicking you out. But if you're a landlord, this can be problematic because not every tenant is a good tenant. Some tenants watch videos, understand how to skirt around the law, and make sure that they make their landlord's life heck. So this provision that is in the law, although it is there to protect renters, not every renter has good intentions. So you do have some people that move in knowing how to manipulate the law in order to not pay their rent. And this is going to make that a little bit easier for them to do. The next thing to consider is the curbing of rent increases and banning bidding wars. Rent can only be increased once per year via the Section 13 notice and must align with the market value. Additionally, landlords and agents are banned from accepting offers above the advertised price to prevent bidding wars. Now, that might sound like a no-brainer and it might sound really good, but this is preventing the free market from doing what the free market does. And it also prevents me as an individual who may be looking to rent from getting the property that I want. So let me just give you an example or a scenario. Let's just say me and my wife are looking to rent, and we have familial support. So we have, grandparents or sisters or brothers in a particular area, and we see that that rent there is 1650. It's advertised as 1650, let's just say. But to us, the value of being near our support network means that we would pay a little bit more. We don't even have the right to offer more because this is going to prevent landlords from taking higher offers than what the market value is. Again, from a renter's perspective, it seems like it's kind of a no brainer. But for me, that might be the only property that's within the encatchment area that I need, or close enough for the walk from our house to the in-laws house or whatever. So it's actually limiting my choice. It's limiting my ability to say, well, it's more valuable to me than maybe someone else that doesn't have those limiting factors. So whilst it is designed to protect the renter and it is designed to be good for the market, if you're considering being a landlord, you have to think about this. Most landlords are going to take out interest only mortgages. And most landlords, the multiple of what they can get above the rent is going to be somewhat limited. If your interest only mortgage expires and let's just say the interest rates go up, you're not going to have the ability to easily increase the rent in line with maybe your operating expenses. So when these gurus online make it look like it's all sunshine and rainbows being a landlord, they're probably just selling you a course. I often might come across like I'm very anti, courses and gurus. It's not that. It's just that there often is a perverse incentive in anyone selling a course. What I mean by that is quite often people that are selling these courses make more money from selling the course than from doing the thing that they're selling the course about. So what that means is they're more interested in selling the course to you. Now, if what they teach you works out, that's fine and that's great. That they'll put that in the testimonials. But if it doesn't work out, and it may not be because the quality of the course isn't good, it may be that you just don't want to follow the provisions or the instructions that are in the course. It could be lots of different things. So I'm not downing the courses. I'm not saying that the courses aren't good or don't have good content. I'm just saying, as an individual, you have to look at all of these things that, there's no incentive for the person that's selling the 5,000 pound property course to tell you, well, look, maybe you should consider this, this, and this. All they're going to do is tell you the upside. So always proceed with caution. And like they say, if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Being a landlord, being a property owner, making money off property is one of those things that historically has helped people build generational wealth. But you can't do it in a way that you're cutting corners. You can't do it in a way that you're abusing mortgage products. You have to do things the right way, which can cost money. And with the new renters' rights bill, it can make it a little bit more difficult to operate in a way that you are making a profit. The other thing to consider is putting quality and fairness at the center. The bill introduces a decent homes standard, including things around mole. So this is just saying that it prohibits discrimination based on benefits, family status, and sets up a rental sector database plus a landlord ombudsman. Every property that is owned by a landlord should be maintained to a livable standard, and it should be maintained in a way that anyone renting feels comfortable, feels safe, that things are fixed quickly. But when it comes to these standards, quite often it is quite expensive to keep things up to a standard. I also feel that you shouldn't discriminate against someone that needs a home. But the flip side of that is, as a landlord, you may have had experience where people come in and they just wreck your property because they have pets. Pets are pets. So if you're a pet lover, this is a great provision to the law. However, if you're a landlord and you've had horrible experiences, or you know that a pet can make your property smell, so then that means when that person moves out, you have to do a lot of work. Or even around kids, I'll give a personal example. What if you have a downstairs apartment that you're looking to rent, and you also have the upstairs, and then the upstairs people have kids that are just running around and stomping and making noise, and it's making it not a comfortable place for the people downstairs to live. You, as an individual, may have considered in the past saying, you know what, I don't necessarily want kids. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, but the provision may be based, or that idea may be based on past experience that has cost you in your pocket. This new provision is going to prevent any discrimination based on, the status. Is the person on benefits? Do they have kids? Do they have pets? So you need to consider this. If you're thinking about going into property investing, the landscape of the laws and the different things that are policies that are coming out from any given government should be something that you factor in to your decision. And you should also factor in the costs of making the necessary changes to comply with the law into any decisions that you're making. If you're enjoying this video, make sure that you subscribe. If you've even watched it for 2 minutes, hopefully you've gotten some value out of it. This is a really small channel, so every subscription that I get, I value. If you make comments, sometimes I get things wrong. If you're a landlord, if you're an accountant, if you're a broker, and there's something that maybe I didn't explain well, make sure you put that in the comment. Always happy to get the feedback. But now let's look at another bit. What is a buy to let? So you have to understand what a buy to let mortgage is to begin with. This is a property that you are going to purchase for the property of renting out. You need to consider if friends or family, specifically family, will be living there. And you need to understand if you've ever lived in there, the provisions are a bit different and the mortgages are different. So if you're thinking about becoming a landlord, you're going to need a buy to let mortgage. And a buy to let mortgage, in the strictest sense, is designed for a property that you're purchasing that is meant to be rented out. And a big word of caution: if you are planning on renting to family, it can be problematic. And the reason that is if you're renting to a sister or a brother, and let's just say they're unable to pay the rent, a lot of the legal remedies that you have, you may not want to employ against family. So this is why lenders view those situations a lot differently. It's also a little bit different if you've lived in the property in the past. So it could be considered what's called a consumer buy to let. The mortgage rates and some of the criteria is going to be very different if it's a consumer buy to let versus if it's just a standard buy to let. And as I always say, you want to make sure you're getting the right mortgage product and you use the right mortgage product in the way that it's designed to be used. Mortgage fraud is a serious thing, and you should always operate within the law. And remember that your property may be repossessed if you don't keep up the repayments on your mortgage. A few things about the buyer. So I think a few things about you if you're considering being a property owner, investor, or a landlord. Are you a first-time buyer? Are you a high rate taxpayer? Do you have a team? Have you done your research? And are you buying in your personal name or through a buy to let? So the first question is, are you a first time buyer? Some lenders will not lend to what they call first time buyer, first time landlord. So that means you've never owned a property and the first property you're buying is a buy to let property. So you need to keep that in mind. There are lots of lenders who will, but there are some lenders that won't lend based on that. Are you a high rate taxpayer? So just as a rule of thumb, if you're a high rate taxpayer, the multiple between your mortgage and what the rental income is will be different than a non-high rate taxpayer. So speak to your mortgage broker about that, and they'll be able to explain that in greater detail. Do you have a team, and have you done your research? If you've just seen an ad on TikTok or online where they're saying this is a quick way to make money, think again. You're going to need a team. It's good to have a team that includes a builder, potentially an architect, someone to look at the finances, so an accountant. The other point that is made in this list of things to consider is, are you buying in personal name or limited company? This is a question that I get at least once a week, and in all the property groups that I'm in, people ask this question regularly. Should I buy in personal name or limited company? The answer is, it depends. You'll always need to speak to an accountant. When you speak to the accountant, let them give them the information that they understand what your long-term goals are, what your appetite for risk is, and what you're trying to accomplish. So you need to think about it from an estate planning perspective, not just how do I skirt paying this or paying that, because it never works. So either one can work. When you speak to your mortgage broker, they'll explain to you about SIC codes, SIC codes, because if you are purchasing through a limited company and you're setting up a limited company for the purchases, you're going to need to understand the SIC codes or the SIC codes to make sure that when you do go to get the mortgage, you have the right SIC codes on there. Some lenders need to see specific ones. Some, if there's specific SIC codes on there, then they won't lend. And the other thing is, have you set up a business specifically for the purpose of doing property? Some lenders need to see that it's just a property-based limited company. So let's just say you're a healthcare provider and you have a healthcare business in a limited company. You've been trading, you're doing well, and you then want to purchase a property through that limited company that's a healthcare company. Some lenders won't like that, so they won't offer the mortgage. So there are lenders that will, but when you're setting up, these are things that you're going to want to keep in mind. And as always, I'll talk through things like criteria, because criteria is important. So as a rule of thumb, the rental income, so the income that you get from renting over your mortgage, needs to be about 1.45. Rule of thumb, it will be different for different lenders. Will it be an HMO? And you will need a larger deposit. So if you're using it as a home of multiple occupiers, you might need specific licenses from the council. So these are things that you should research in advance and get the appropriate mortgage for the actual use of the property. It's not something that you should buy the property and then figure out if or what you're going to use that for. So you should have that in mind, have that plan, speak to your accountant, speak to your broker. This will enable you to get the right product. And you will need a larger deposit. Generally speaking, as a guideline, you're going to need about a 25% deposit to purchase a buy-to-let property. The great thing about it is, though, you don't necessarily need to prove an income, because the income is going to be based on the rental income. And again, 1.45 times the actual mortgage. You want to be there or thereabout. Now, timelines. I always get asked about timelines. A remortgage in general, if you're remortgaging a buy-to-let property, it can take 4 to 6 months. Use a broker and have documents ready. Let me correct that. A mortgage is 4 to 6 months. So the mortgage is going to be 4 to 6 months. A remortgage, is going to be maybe a month, month and a half. Depends on if you're going with the same lender or you're going with another lender. It's always good to understand the timelines. This is why, if you're looking to, let's just say, remortgage, you have a buy-to-let property, you're like one of the millions of people that are coming off a really low fixed rate around COVID and the lockdown, or a really low fixed rate around, the times when the rates were low. Make sure you speak to a mortgage broker in advance. Make sure you get the letter from your existing lender so that your mortgage broker knows what rate they need to beat, if any. If they're unable to beat that rate, it probably makes more sense to stay with your current lender, because it's going to be less hassle for you and potentially less fees. So always know what your current lender is offering. Take that to your mortgage broker, have the conversation, and they'll be able to explain everything to you. So how do you prepare for a mortgage? Check your credit report. You should check your credit report at least once a year. I'd recommend twice a year. Tidy up your bank statements. So if you have standing orders or if you have direct debits that are no longer fit for purpose, get rid of them. Check your employment contract. So what type of contract are you on? Are you full-time, part-time? Are you a limited company holder? Maximize your deposit and speak to a mortgage broker. By maximizing your deposit, I mean make sure that the money is being paid into a high interest savings account rather than your standard current account, which quite often doesn't give you the best rate. As always, I'm not giving financial or tax advice. These are just rules of thumb from someone that's been in the finance industry for over 30 years. My name is Anthony Lindsay, and I make these videos in order to share ideas, talk you through concepts, and answer the questions that I get asked regularly when I'm working with my clients. These videos are not financial or legal advice. They're certainly not tax advice, and they're not designed to replace speaking to a qualified professional that you speak to, you explain your needs, your appetite for risk, and all of your goals. They'll be able to give you the best advice. If you're looking for a mortgage broker, you should always try to find someone that comes recommended by someone that has used that mortgage broker recently, someone that you can trust. If you feel that you're going into a conversation with a mortgage broker and you don't feel that you can disclose everything, then you shouldn't be working with that broker. You need to be able to trust them and know that they're going to give you the best advice. Sometimes you may not hear what you want to hear, but a qualified professional mortgage broker will give you the best advice and show you the best products for your circumstances. Being a landlord is not easy. It's not a get rich quick scheme, despite what people who are trying to sell you courses online will tell you. Historically, investing in property has been a sound investment because over the passing of time, property tends to appreciate in value. But that's not to say that you can't lose a lot of money if you don't do it right. So make sure you have a team, make sure you ask the questions, make sure that you deal with professionals. My name is Anthony Lindsay, and if you don't have a broker at the moment, I'd love to talk to you. I do a free mortgage capacity report, whether that be commercial, residential, or buy to let. If you've watched this video, I'd appreciate if you subscribe because this is a really small channel. If you've heard something that doesn't make sense to you, or if there's a topic that you'd like for me to discuss, more than happy to do that. And make sure you check out some of the other videos. And don't forget, March 21st of 2026, we're doing the East London Property Expo. We'll be gathering investors and mortgage brokers and lenders from all across the country to have a discussion and answer your questions. It's free to attend, but we'll also have some master classes where you can speak to professionals in a more intimate environment. Thanks for watching, and make sure, as I said, you like, subscribe, and comment.